She had 5 requirements before chemistry even started: location, diet, family values, career trajectory, language. She'd been called Tikki for 2 years. Today, I want to show you the math behind that word, because I think you're going to feel differently about it by the end. Let me give you a number first. That is the percentage of first-generation Indian Americans who are in stable marriages according to the Carnegie Endowment's 2020 survey of 1,200 respondents. We cite that number as evidence that something works. And it does work. But here's what nobody says out loud. Those marriages were built using a system that no longer exists for most of you watching this. If you are second generation, if you grew up here, if you are building your life in America, if you have already moved away from the extended family infrastructure, you don't have that system anymore. The aunties aren't waiting for you. The community network is introducing introductions. You have apps, matrimony websites, and the occasional family friend who means well but doesn't actually know what you need. So when someone from that first generation world calls you picky, what they're actually saying is, why aren't you letting the system work? And the honest answer is, the system doesn't exist for you the same way. That 94% was earned through very careful filtering. The question for this generation is, where that filtering happens now. Let's do the funnel. Pew Research puts the Indian American population at 4 million. That sounds like a lot. Stay with me. Step 1. Remove the people outside your geographic preference. You live in Boston, or the Bay Area, or Atlanta. You are not going to relocate for a stranger. You've built your life somewhere. You want to build a marriage near that life. So remove everyone who isn't within your reasonable geography. Depending on where you are and how far you're willing to go, you've just cut your pool significantly. But let's keep going. Step 2. Remove the people who are already married. The majority of that 4 million is married. The Carnegie data shows that 80% of Indian Americans marry Indian origin partners, and Indian Americans marry. Most of them are out of the pool. Step 3. Remove those outside your age range. You are not looking across the 4 million, you are looking at maybe a 10-year window. The realistic dating age Indian American population in America is a fraction of 4 million. Step 4. Remove those whose values around family and family location don't align with yours. This is a big one. Do they want to live near their parents? Are their parents in India? Do they expect to financially support their family of origin? Do they see their family as part of the unit you'd be building together or as separate? Carnegie found that 40% of US-born Indian Americans have married someone born in India. That means the family picture is often genuinely cross-continental. This matters. Remove the ones where it doesn't align. Step 5. Remove lifestyle mismatches. Diet, whether they drink, whether they smoke, what their relationship with fitness is, what they do on weekends. These are not superficial. These are the texture of every single day for the next 40 years. Remove the misaligned ones. What's left? A few hundred people. Realistically, maybe fewer depending on your geography and how honest you are about what you actually need. 300 people in all of America. And then someone tells Anusha she's being too picky. About 300 people. Now let's add one more piece of data. A 2023 compatibility study found that couples who discussed deal breakers explicitly before the first date were 3.4 times more likely to report high compatibility at 6 months. Not slightly more likely, 3.4 times. The awkward conversation that nobody wants to have upfront is the conversation that predicts whether you are wasting each other's time. Stanford's How Couples Meet study found that 39% of heterosexual couples meet online today, which means that your online filters, the questions you answer, the preferences you set, matter more than they have at any point in history. When you meet someone at a family function, 100 pieces of context arrive with them. Online, you start from zero. The filtering has to be deliberate. People who say they have no requirements don't have fewer requirements. They just haven't written them down yet. They find them on date 3 or date 8 or after 6 months of growing attached to someone who was never actually going to work for them. That is not open-mindedness. That is deferred conflict. Anusha is a data scientist in Boston. She had been searching for 14 months when she showed me the spreadsheet. We were at a coffee shop in Back Bay, afternoon light coming through the windows. She opened her laptop, pulled out the spreadsheet, and looked almost embarrassed when she turned the screen towards me. 8 columns, color-coded. 1 column for location, 1 for family values, 1 for career trajectory, 1 for lifestyle alignment, 1 for initial impression, 1 for follow-through, 1 for second impression shift, 1 for what her gut said after 3 conversations. She looked embarrassed because she thought I was going to tell her it was too much, that she was trying too hard, that real connection doesn't need a spreadsheet. I didn't say that. I said this is useful. This is you knowing yourself. This spreadsheet is not why you haven't found someone. This spreadsheet is the only reason you haven't wasted years on people who were wrong for you. She'd been searching for 14 months. She had in that time had serious conversations with 11 people, not swiped on 11, had real conversations with 11. 8 of them had a fundamental incompatibility she discovered within the first few weeks, not because she was unreasonable, because the incompatibility was real, and finding it early meant she didn't have to find it later. The spreadsheet wasn't the problem. The problem was that she was doing the spreadsheet's job manually after the fact, after feelings had already formed. Here's where dating apps and matrimony websites leave you. Dating apps, you have a few basic filters. Age, distance. You swipe on photos. You find out about deal breakers on day 3 when you mention that you can't imagine living more than 2 hours from your parents and they mention they're planning to move to Singapore in 18 months. 2 months of conversation, 1 date, 1 expensive dinner, and you're back at 0. Matrimony websites, more structure, more fields, more information upfront, better. But the fundamental gap is still there. You can still receive messages from people who don't meet your requirements. There is no gating mechanism. You're still doing manual filtering, just with slightly better data. Neither gives you what the research says actually predicts compatibility, the explicit upfront mutual deal breaker conversation. And neither gives you mutual gating, the requirement that both sides must align before either person knows the other exists. That gap is where Anusha's 14 months went. This is where VivaahReady comes in. And I want to be specific about what it does differently. VivaahReady is built exclusively for Indian Americans, not adapted from a generic app, built from scratch for this community. On VivaahReady, you set up to 10 deal breaker categories before your profile is visible to anyone. Both people have to set their preferences. Both people's preferences have to align. Then and only then does either person know the other exists. This is mutual match gating. It means you can't receive a connection from someone you aren't compatible with. It means you can't be someone else's disappointment on day 3.
The categories include age, height, marital status, diet, smoking, drinking, location, citizenship, where you grew up, relocation willingness, education, work area, income, occupation, family values, family location, mother tongue, pets, hobbies, fitness, interests, and whether you have children. Every one of those categories maps to something real in a long-term marriage. And if you're close, but not quite there, VivaahReady shows you the near match. Exactly which 1 or 2 deal breakers are blocking the connection. Not a vague incompatibility. The specific thing. So you can decide whether it's truly a deal breaker or something worth a conversation. Anusha's spreadsheet became her deal breaker list on VivaahReady. Instead of filtering manually after conversations had already started, the platform filters for her before anyone sees her profile. Her 8 columns became inputs. The system does what she used to do by hand, before she'd had to sit across from someone she liked and have the disappointing conversation. I want to show you the other side of this. Parth came into this process thinking he had 3 requirements. He was proud of it actually. He thought it meant he was open-minded, not rigid like other people he'd seen be single for years with their long lists. 3 requirements, easy. He was ready. Then he sat down and wrote it out. Really wrote it out. And when he was honest with himself, he had 12. He had opinions about where he wanted to live, and they were specific. He had opinions about family involvement in his marriage, and they were strong. He had feelings about diet that went deeper than preference. He had thoughts about children and timing that he'd never put into words because nobody had asked. 12, not 3. I realized I actually had 12 things that mattered to me, he told me later. I just hadn't admitted it to myself. Setting deal breakers wasn't being difficult, it was being honest. That shift from 3 to 12 isn't a warning sign, it's the work. The people who stay at 3 or who say they have no requirements are not more open, they are less examined. They will find their requirements eventually, just not up front, where it would have been useful. I want to give you 1 thing this week, not 3 things. 1. Write down your actual list. Not what you think you should want, not what sounds reasonable when you say it out loud to someone who might judge you. What you actually need for this to work. Then, count them. If you're surprised by the number, that surprise is useful information. If the number is higher than you thought, that doesn't mean you're too demanding. It means you know yourself better than you realized. The research says that knowing this upfront and having the conversation upfront makes you 3.5 times more likely to be genuinely compatible with the person you end up with. 3.5 times. That number is worth a spreadsheet. That number is worth a list with 12 items on it. Write your list. If you want a platform that's built to receive that list, that uses it to gate who you see and who sees you, VivaahReady.com. The match that's right for you exists. Make sure the system can find them.